Brand new spoiler review of Miss Marvel here on Max Talks Movies. My name is Max Lindbergh. If you're new to the channel, please like the video, guys. The thumbs up button. That's how you support this channel the best way possible. Comment down below. Tell me, are you frustrated with the show, surprised by the show? Give me a reason why a lot of people aren't checking out this MCU Disney Plus show in the comment section down below. And what are your predictions for the final 2 episodes of the show? And also, please subscribe and ring that bell if notified when these videos drop. I do this breakdown every single Wednesday or Thursday, as well as other TV show, movie reviews, movie rankings, and a box office breakdown show I do every single Monday. So please subscribe and ring the bell. So if you're new to the channel, I've already done the breakdowns of each of the first 3 episodes. I'm going to go full spoilers with not just those first 3, but really breaking down this new episode 4 called Seeing Red. So the first 2 episodes, I'll just give a little recap. I really did enjoy the show. It's actually one of my more pleasant surprises from an MCU Disney Plus show so far. And even with my frustrations coming with especially these last 2 episodes, I can still say I do love these characters. And I do think the actors are doing a good job. And some of these main characters are really interesting characters. And I was actually enjoying where the story was going. Now, episode 3, as if you saw my video last week, kind of frustrated me, made it more confusing. There were some bad action scenes involved. I didn't hate it, but it was just a frustrating episode. I do believe that this is by far, I'll say by far, this for me was the weakest episode of the series so far. And which is disappointing because all of the culture that they put on display in this episode was fantastic. And you're still learning about that relationship in the early 40s with Pakistan and India. And they're really doing a good job educating you on that. But the crazy thing about the show that there's still only 2 episodes left, which I do believe is becoming a major problem for these Disney Plus shows, not just Marvel, but also Star Wars, like Obi-Wan and Boba Fett were also, and Star Wars was also, Obi-Wan was also 6 episodes. 6 episodes, it seems like it's just not the number to hit. Now, I'm not saying that every show needs to be 8, 10, 15 episodes, but I do feel like the writers need to know, based on the story they are telling, how many episodes that's worth. And the fact that it feels like that I'm still, and this is someone who knows a lot of the Kamala Khan backstory in the comics, I still am pretty lost on actually what's going on from the superpower MCU point of view of the show, because I think this is a half and half episode for me. I think the part that I really loved about this episode was going into the culture, going into Kamala's mom and her grandmother, the mother-daughter relationship between those two, I thought was a really good dynamic to learn about in this episode. The fact that Kamala's mom moved because people kept saying to her that her mom's this crazy person who gives all these crazy theories. But she just wanted her mother, and that's why she kind of moved across the country. That dynamic, I think, really worked. Everything with Kamala and her mom and the grandmother, for me, worked in this episode. This is also the first episode without Bruno in it, without Nakia in it, other than her and her mom, the rest of the family is not there, because as we start at the end of episode 3, we were going to be heading to Karachi. So we don't really explain why her mom is just so cool with them just going themselves to Karachi. But even though you can kind of tell that they're clearly not in Pakistan, they did film this, I think, in Thailand. It kind of gets the point enough over that they're learning about all these cultures and everything. And this is where Kamala meets the Red Daggers. The first Red Daggers played by Aramis Knight. Hopefully I'm saying his name right. And then character of Ali played by Farhan Akhtar, who were interesting characters, especially Waleed. But let's just get to, as you can tell, I'm trying to hide all my frustration. That's where you get all the Red Daggers. At the same time, that's happening. Najma, Kamran, and that group are escaping the DODC, and Najma kind of leaves her son behind. These leads them going after Kamala. Looks like Waleed is dead and gets killed by Najma. And then we end the episode with when Najma hits the wrist. Sorry, I can't even think of it right now. The wrist thing on for Kamala. The bangle. She finally gets transported into the past, and we see her. She stands on top of the train, and all these people leaving. So they're clearly still setting things up. So let's get to my general thoughts on the episode now after breaking that down. What happened? as I said, this for me was by far the most frustrating, disappointing episode of the series so far. And this show, it's one of its bigger issues is that it feels like it has a story of its own, and then they kind of just smash the MCU stuff on top of it. I think this show is the reason why no one's watched it's the least watched MCU Disney Plus show. And there's multiple reasons. One, I don't think there's enough must watch, must tweet parts of any of these episodes so far. I hear that not a lot of people are staying up until midnight Pacific Coast time, 3 a.m. Eastern. Most of these big time shows like Obi-Wan, Loki, WandaVision, people were staying up right when it released because they didn't want to be spoiled online. People are just waiting for this show now because there's just not a lot of spoilerly elements to these episodes. Another one is that there's just at this point, there just isn't enough connective tissue to the MCU at the moment. It doesn't have a spectacular story on its own to get you there, because other than those, there's been hints, obviously the Captain Marvel stuff in the first couple episodes, and seeing the 10 rings logo at the beginning of last week's episode, you're just kind of unsure what direction this is going, because the Jinn and the clandestines, she feels very mystic, like Doctor Strange and witchcraft with Wanda, but it seems like she's heading towards obviously the Marvels. She'll be in the Marvels, so heading towards a Captain Marvel meetup. And it seems like the way that they have set up her character different from the comics is that she seems way more cosmic than she does with Captain Marvel. So I find that a bit interesting. And as I said, some of these action scenes are just not good. I thought the Red Dagger meetup with Kamala was actually pretty solid, but the chase scene with Red Dagger, Kamala getting chased from Najma's group, was not very good. Again, some of these and also you just don't know the powers. I think a lot of people who just don't know anything about this character must know nothing that's going on. And from someone who does know some things about this, I'm still very confused on what they're setting up. It's made Kamala's origin story very confusing. And it's making like, why is there a nerd dimension? Like they're not really taking the time to explain it. The latest part about this episode was that Kamala sees that, Waleed can actually read the insignia on the bangle, says what it is. And she's like, is that important? He's like, I don't know if it's important, but it must be important for someone. And then we kind of just move on. Like this show at times just feels so rushed because we're just not taking our time understanding what Kamala's powers even are. Like obviously we see the big hand and the fact that she can step on this thing, but I just don't think it's being explained enough. And this is a huge problem because the whole point, one of the main points of this show is so for people going in for going into the Marvels, you don't need to have a whole 30-minute chunk of that movie being a Kamala Khan origin story. And I am so worried because I don't think they have enough time, of 2 episodes left, to finish this origin story. I could be totally wrong. I think Disney Plus has proven that sometimes they can just come home with the last 2 episodes and kind of blow you away, which I kind of was with Moon Knight. But I still love Moon Knight all throughout the show. I am enjoying the show because I love Iman Vellani as Kamala Khan. I think she's absolutely fantastic in the show. It was weird not having Bruno or Nakia, they're also top tier characters for me in the show. The mom and the grandmother were excellent once again this episode. And also, I think these villains are unwatchable. I mean, they don't feel like any sort of threat to Kamala, and there's some weak performances with the villains, and their motive just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I said that was my weakest part of episode 3. Every time they showed up on screen this episode, I kind of wanted to roll my eyes, but for the wrong reasons. So the villains are very unwatchable. They don't feel like any kind of threats, weird performances. And while I love Iman Vellani as Kamala, this episode was so frustrating because there's so much going on and there's just not explaining any of it, which is leading to them, hopefully not leading to, it feels like a rushed last 2 episodes of the show. I don't know how they're going to wrap up these 2 episodes of the show. Even this episode, there's just logic kind of thrown out the window. So I'm hoping the show to get back on track because I really did love the first 2 episodes of the show. I liked the first episode, loved the second episode. Third episode I thought was all right, and this episode just didn't do it for me. A pretty mediocre episode of Ms. Marvel. So that's my thoughts of this episode. Let me know, do you agree with my frustration? Are you liking the show more than me? Let me know in the comment section down below. Like the video, I'll be back next Wednesday or Thursday, trying to figure out the day for that, for the in the next 2 Wednesdays for breaking down the last 2 episodes of Miss Marvel. So join me back here on the channel. Other reviews are coming, including my box office breakdown shows on Monday. Later today, you'll have my ranking of all the movies I saw in June. Minions Rise of Gru movie review. Stranger Things Season 4 Volume 2 spoiler review. Thor Love and Thunder review. So much coming out. I'll see you guys soon.